A preamble is going to be for the next 4 questions, and we will alternate for each of the candidates for the 4 questions. Preamble for the next 4 questions is: arts and culture contribute to the community cohesion, teach us compassion and increase our levels of subjective well-being, and create economic growth. Arts and cultural organizations are trying to find ways to respond and to help build an understanding of the broader social and economic benefits of arts and culture. Question 1 to Janet. The question is: the cultural plan is official policy of the District of Summerland. What do you think are the 2 most important and urgent strategies from that plan?
Thank you for the question. We in fact have that identified through the discussion with the cultural plan development, of which I sat on. And we also had workshops recently which conducted those same kind of discussions. There were 2 areas that came to the forefront, and one is the opportunity for a dedicated space for cultural events and activities to go forward in. We are lucky to have had our old library building, which this council has then taken and looked for funding to be able to do renovations that would allow for the opportunity to enhance the activities within that building. We also are fortunate to have very creative people within the community that serve on the Arts Council, and they have peopled that building with many activities. Those things would be able to continue. We have great potters, we have fiber artists, we have recording artists. There are people in this community that will come forward and give us those activities within a dedicated building, and not just that building, but other spaces within our community. One of the other things that was identified through the plan and the more recent workshop was that for over 15 years, this community has requested to have a digital calendar. That is a calendar that would be available for all the community to post activities, events that were going on, whether you were a church, an organization, or a business. And it was recommended that the Chamber of Commerce has that platform available. I see no reason why the council would not be able to direct some economic development funds to have that available through our chamber. And that would be a great boon for all of our activities. Often people say to me, I didn't see it on the bulletin board, I didn't see it in the paper, where would I find it? This community has tremendous cultural attributes, and we can bring theirs forward to create a better economy, to be a richer opportunity within our community for people to live and enjoy here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony, I'd like you to answer the following question. Do you consider arts and culture an economic driver?
You bet. It is. It's been proven in 2010. UBC did a study at the city of Kelowna and showed that almost 8 out of 1,000 people are employed in the arts and culture sector, and that doesn't include people that educate or instructors for dance or drama or other arts as well. It also showed that for every person that was living in Kelowna, they contributed $338 to arts and culture throughout the year. So yes, it is an economic driver, and I would like to see continued movement by the district to celebrate the arts and culture that we already have in Summerland, and to continue seeing that grow. Not only is it an economic driver, but it's good for our health and well-being, and increases the level of lifestyle in Summerland. So yes, I think it's a very important economic driver.
Thank you. This question I'll ask each of you to answer, starting with Janet, is: would you support the issue of cannabis cultivation in Summerland?
the issue of cannabis cultivation in Summerland.
Yes.
Well, since it will be mandated and it will be a legal requirement to allow such things in our community, I would have to support it. I do say that council is moving towards the separation by zoning, that if it is to be industrialized production of cannabis, that it be directed to our industrial areas. The province has mandated, however, that the ALR will be the opportunity for growing as well as production, and those things we will not be able to override. I hope that the following regulations allow us the opportunity to regulate, because I know that our community is concerned about the odors that come and the security things that can happen around the production of cannabis. So those would be the things that I look for, an opportunity to be able to regulate. We've also lobbied through SAILGA and UBC for the allocation of funds from the federal and provincial government to be able to look after regulation, enforcement, and the RCMP coverage for the things that they will be required to cover as well. It's an opportunity, it has challenges, and that I know that our community wants to be able to speak to things like smoking in public spaces, so that I'm sure that the council will take an opportunity to do those types of consultations. Thank you.
Tony?
As we all know, in 2 weeks, the federal government will tell us that cannabis is legalized in Canada. The province does have regulations in place, but there is something that local government can do. On last Thursday, we read, for the third time, we read some public resolutions that related to cannabis production. Cannabis production was one of them. The second resolution was about sales of cannabis in Summerland. Speaking, however, about cannabis production in Summerland, one thing that we can do as a local government is we can restrict cannabis production on ALR land if there is a non-soil base structure or greenhouse. So if it is proposed to have a cement-based structure or greenhouse, we can, as a local government, restrict that. It will not be allowed on ALR land. That's one thing that we can do. Another thing that we need to consider is what the impacts are to other utilities. For example, the soil-based greenhouse takes care of the land issue and preserves the land. We need to look at the water that's being used, and we also need to look at the impact on our electrical infrastructure. Having said that, though, if our cannabis production is in an industrial area, there are opportunities for property tax and another thriving business in Summerland, and jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Financial acumen, and I'll start, Janet, if you could answer this question first. I'll ask both of you to answer this question. Local governments cannot afford to have a council where 2/3 of the group glaze over the budgeting process while a few others want to go through the budget line by line and painful line. Local government elected officials need to understand basic financial information and be able to evaluate budgets and financial statements. They need to comprehend the long-term taxation and budget consequences of financial proposals and decisions. How would you describe your financial acumen?
Thank you for the question. I would say that I have a good financial and budget acumen. I think the time that I've spent on councils, as I said, 23 years at the end of this year, gives me that background. I think the impacts to our taxpayers are things that should be analyzed thoroughly. that we have opportunities to look for fees and services where we need to build the background in the capital for certain segments of what we are required to deliver. And I think there are other opportunities in creating the inputs that would allow for some accumulation of funds. So where we look at the opportunities to build more houses and to have businesses established here, those are things that will positively impact our budgets. We've had a very good council in terms of being able to do the kind of analysis that's needed, and I would say that we've had great treasury staff. We do have good resources within our staffing, and those are the things that we require and lead on, as we are all not experts in this particular area.
Thank you. Tony?
I have been on council for 4 years, the same as Councillor Peake. And yes, I think we have a fairly rigorous budget process. Perhaps not as rigorous as the one at the regional district, but the regional district is completely different. I have had, as you've heard earlier, I have run 2 successful businesses in Summerland, initially Kettle Valley Dried Fruits, and then Grasslands Nursery, which was sold to a local couple, and they're here tonight. And I think that I could not have had that business success without having a good understanding of budgeting and forecasting and the cost of salaries, all of those kinds of things. So I think that my personal business experience and my experience as being a counselor and going through the budget process year after year has given me a strengthened financial acumen.
Thank you.